Yes, and the man who has the eyebrows of The Rock. And the man who knows what The Rock is cooking. So there you go. Welcome to Tuesday. We're kind of void of course most of today in Aries, moving into Taurus, so I figure it's Pick a Fight Tuesday. Want to pick a fight? You want to have an argument?
No, I don't want to have an argument, Sean.
No, you always want to have an argument. You argue about
No, I never want to have an argument.
Oh, go to Arizona where you can't rape your wife.
No, I'm not going to Arizona. You tricked me into an argument.
See? So if you Planet X people want to call, if you Hollow Earth people want to call, all you people who still love Barack Obama, all you people who still think after 17 years Jon Stewart is funny, I gave up watching The Daily Show as an example. I used to be a huge Daily Show fan. I used to watch The Daily Show when Craig Kilborn was on The Daily Show, and they used to have the 5 questions. And when Jon Stewart took over, I thought, wow, this guy sucks. And then he got funny. And then now you will notice that why is every movie star goes through The Daily Show now? It used to be that you had all these people who are making comedies that had to go through Saturday Night Live, and Saturday Night Live has basically just sucked for so long. There's been a couple of good people. Actually, this last season has been funny because it really sounds like patriots are writing it. I mean, they've made more fun of Obama and looked up Obama's kilt quite a few more times. I mean, the funniest stuff they've done has been parodies on the simply outrageous, unconstitutional, and totalitarian actions of the current resident of the United States, the branch manager. That's an inside joke.
Yeah, but you know what I think that is, because who are we kidding? I mean, it's NBC. I think that it's because the destined V in 2016 is going to go to an R, so therefore they need to mock a D to socially condition you to so that way they have to do less vote rigging in order to get their chosen desired result.
Okay, I presume the R's and the D's are Republicans and Democrats. That's what you're talking about. As opposed to the V. What's a V?
Victory.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know, for the V or the W, the win.
I know, bro. You're talking to me in gangsta code. I get it now. Okay, so I was prepared for your gangster code.
To you in first letter initials.
All right. There we go.
I'm pretty sure gangstas didn't invent that.
Yeah, but even Snoop Dogg's like, we just make up a bunch of funny stuff and make people say it.
Sean, just point at your head and say Mark Twain's initials.
Mark Twain's initials. So I've been taping Daily Show over the course of the last, because I guess next week is his last week, and he has exposed a lot of the media, but I get so tired of him just being the really the face of the left wing New York liberal establishment, and yet on the other side, I've appreciated a lot of the stuff that he's done over the years as far as exposing the hypocrisy. I'm not sure he's been particularly fair and balanced, but it's I do appreciate him kind of taking on Fox News.
Yeah, about 90% of his bits were like anti-Fox hypocrisy, and granted, Fox deserved it.
Right, exactly. So and then again, I realized why I stopped watching The Daily Show. But when you look at if you look at the girth of stars that have come out of that, I mean, now you've got Ed Helms, who's a big major movie star. You've got Stephen Colbert, who is going to be taking over for David Letterman, which I think is the biggest mistake ever. And because Stephen Colbert's whole shtick in the Colbert Report was he was mocking conservatives by pretending to be one. So I don't understand why his popularity amongst the right went so crazy. When I remember explaining to people, he's mocking you. You understand that he's purposely playing this caricature, and the caricature got so immensely popular. I am not so sure that without his caricature, he's going to be able to handle, because he's never been a stand-up comedian. He's been it's just that there's a whole series of mistakes that are just going down. Craig Ferguson, who I thought was going to take over the Late Show, would have been perfect. I love Craig Ferguson, and I'm convinced that Craig Ferguson, because of his I don't even know what to call it. We need to come up with some new terminology because of his, I can't say patriot, I guess his freedom philosophy. I mean, he actually had a huge snake. He has the symbol on his left arm of the segmented serpent that is the "Don't Tread on Me" serpent. He's got that on his entire forearm with the whole thing that says "Don't tread on me." And every single time he's talked about things political, he's certainly mocked the left, and I don't think they wanted him. I thought he was a brilliant show. I used to watch him all the time. He had no budget. He had no band. He had a robot for a sidekick. And I thought he was an immensely talented guy. Now he's in game show hell. But Drew Carey has this whole group of people. There's Drew Carey, and then there's Wayne Brady. Drew Carey does Price is Right. Wayne Brady does Let's Make a Deal. Ryan Sipe, who was also part of the whole Drew Carey gang, and by the way, I used to see Ryan all the time in an improv group he had in Los Angeles that used to do the Laugh Factory called Bucket of Snakes. And so you've got this whole crew at CBS. I mean, it's like Drew Carey moved into CBS, asked all his friends to come over and take over game shows, which are pretty much like game shows are like Pope jobs. They're Pope jobs. Yeah, you got to die in order to lose a Pope job, and it's like it's a royalty job. You've got to either die or somebody has to cut your head off and drag you naked in a barrel full of nails through the streets. I guess like we should be doing to all the Wall Street bankers, but. So I don't know. I don't know how to define myself anymore. You could say libertarian, but I think that the government has a purpose. I think a Republican form of government is supposed to make sure that 51% of the people don't beat up on 49% of the people. All they're supposed to do really is lay an even playing field. I agree with protectionism. I agree that if you build a castle on a hilltop, that you got to build a wall. I completely agree with having strong borders. I think we should build a Great Wall of China around the entire United States and just keep everybody else out. And so, which leads me to, all right, before I get into my next rant, yes, Stephen.
I was about to say, isn't that? Are you making points for or against libertarians in because that's all libertarian.
I don't agree with, and having known Ayn Rand, actually, who sort of invented all this stuff, I don't agree with the libertarian message of laissez-faire capitalism. I just don't. Laissez-faire capitalism remember, Marx was the one that said that you've got to have completely unrestricted capitalism in order to eventually merge into communism. I don't believe in complete laissez-faire capitalism. I do believe that there should be some form of control, because what you're doing is that you're asking the worst men out there. Remember, every single one of these companies that we expect to do good, like the classic example is an oil company. Any company exists to make money. It's what they do. And if they can make a whole bunch more money and fleece the sheep and fook the people, they will do it when left to their own devices. It's their job to make money. And with an oil, the worst thing we ever could have done was deregulate the oil industry, because now they can just do whatever they want. You would think that the free market would actually move into it. But let me give you the Marxist dialectic here. The Marxist dialectic is, if you have one paint store and your paint store becomes so successful that you become the biggest paint store, that you put and then you put all the other paint stores out of business. Well, the only way that you can maintain your paint store monopoly is that if you are destroying any sort of competition. So if you're charging $100 for a bucket of paint because you have an enforced monopoly, and I open up a paint store across the street that says, well, you can get your paint here for $20, people are going to come over to my paint store and buy my paint. Therefore, what does the paint store do? In order to continue to enforce this monopoly, they get into government, and they make government pass a whole bunch of regulations and a whole bunch of because this is why big business is always in bed with big government. You make them pass a whole bunch of regulations to regulate the selling of paint, which only the big paint store can actually afford. It puts everybody else out of business. It's like the largest contributor to the Sierra Club is Standard Oil. The largest contributor to all these gun grabber guys is Winchester Rifle. You would think, why are gun companies actually all for regulation? Because it makes their product more expensive and because it drives competitors out of the marketplace. Other than that, once again, you can have a monopoly if you have a product that's so amazing and so wonderful and so great that nobody else can figure out how to make it, and then you have government protections for a limited period of time in the course of patents and what have you, or you enforce your monopoly through fascism, through government control, through making sure that no one else can afford to compete with you. And eventually what happens is that the capitalistic structure becomes communism. And this is what, once again, Marx was married to Lady Argyle. He's buried in Hyde Park, for God's sakes. He's not some big, hoary, German thinker that's buried in Red Square on the wall. His system was specifically for the aristocracy of England because they were scared to death that the new industrial revolution would allow people to work hard, keep what they earn, and create a burgeoning middle class, which is exactly what it started to do. And communism came along to, in essence, have the government, which is the aristocracy, by the way, come in and take control of the means of production. And fascism is no better. It's the exact same form of government, except now the government comes in and says, well, you can own stuff, but we're going to tell you who to hire. We're going to tell you what to make. We're going to regulate how much smoke you can put out there. You can paint it. You can mow the lawn or paint it blue or whatever you want, but we're going to tell you everything you can do with your business. And, that's the very definition of fascism. So you're going to say.
Well, the thing I was going to say is that, like, you talk about having an even playing field, but with a even playing field, that eliminates every single one of those arguments. So yes, you want to have an even playing field, but at the same time, once you have the even playing field, you also have created the atmosphere to, in theory.
Not really, because all you're doing is you're making sure that, you're like a baseball referee. A baseball referee, you hit the ball, you drop the bat, and you run around the bases. The problem with what I'm saying is that if you have the government on your side, now you hit the ball and you get to run around the bases with the baseball bat and clock people as you're running around the bases, which is unfair. That's the whole definition of an even playing field.
That's right, and we shouldn't have that, but that has nothing to do, like, there's a difference between how your business does business and what is illegal and unlawful for your business to do versus your business's relationship with the referees and the umpires that allows them to have favoritism because nobody sits there and assumes that the Red Sox can never win at Yankee Stadium and vice versa because it's home field and it's the Yankees umpire and the Yankees referees and whatever, and so therefore they're always going to take that fuzzy call and swing it to the Yankees, and therefore the Red Sox shouldn't even bother playing. But then again, nobody would ever play the game at that point.
Okay,
and my point is if
you're approaching the oblong end of one, yes.
Economy. The reason why companies are leaving America and going to anywhere else is because you've made this argument for how, you can't exploit people this way or that way, and yet it is these businesses that are creating the progress of a nation, and when that nation says no, we're going to hinder you because our constituents think this is the way that you shouldn't do business, they're going to say, no, that's fine, I'm just going to go to China. That's fine. I can pack up a house and go.
And yet again, in the old days, in the 30s, if you go back to your history, they came at people that wanted to form unions to protect workers. They came at them with fire hoses and sticks and dogs and what other kind of weapons. Now they come at them with NAFTA. Now they come at them with what the ridiculous aspect of free trade. Now, okay, and the point should be is that if a business says if I draw a line, if you and I are selling the exact same widget, and I draw a line between you and I say, well, on your line, you've got to pay a minimum wage, and you've got health insurance, and you've got to take care of people, and you've got to set up pensions and 401ks and whatever else, and then you've got to – all of that is going to be actually then factored into the price of whatever your widget is. On my side of the line, I don't have to worry about any of that. On my side of the line, I get to get a bunch of little kids to work for a bowl of rice and a bowl of rice and bugs and a nickel a day, and I have no restrictions. There's no OSHA, there's no Fed, there's no California Franchise Tax Board, there's none of this stuff. So therefore, you're selling your widget for X because you have to factor in all the costs of doing business into the price of your widget. Right. I'm selling it for Y, which is substantially less, probably 70% less than your product. And I can ship my product over across your side of the line for people to buy it with no punishments from the government whatsoever. So when you centralize power like that, and when you then put it in the hands of 600 people, because there's 600 people that run the entire country, which is another violation of the Constitution as well, because the Constitution very clearly stated that there was to be one congressman for every 30,000 people, which means we should have a Congress that's anywhere between about 8,500 to about 10,000 people or so in a true Congress. Now, they do have that as part of their parliament in India, but oh my God, their elections take a year. Just to round up everybody's vote in 1.2 billion people. They've got the largest democracy on the planet.
Well, Sean, to be fair, we've got a presidential election coming up, and it's coming up in a year and 3 months from now, and we're already in the election. So, our president is every 4 years, and now it's over a year until that point, and here we are, starting our election cycle anyway. In this country, every 2 years, there's some sort of a major election, and of course, every 4 years, the president as well as everyone else is bulked into the major one. And then every year, there are also, mini elections that are going on, not to mention state-level elections. We're in a constant cycle of elections. So...
As opposed to in the presidential days. By the way, the first presidential primary.
If an election takes a year, fine. An election takes a year because, I'm just saying if you're comparing us to India, it's the same thing. It's just that our streets are clean.
Well, in the very first presidential primary was actually 1912, and it was initiated by Teddy Roosevelt because Teddy Roosevelt wanted to be president again. Teddy Roosevelt made the mistake of saying that he was not going to run for another term. People forget that Teddy Roosevelt became president because of the assassination of President McKinley. So he could have, and there were no term limits on president at that time. But after he served his 8 years, people said, as one of the most popular presidents in American history, he made the mistake of saying, I will not run again. And those words came back to haunt him because everybody said, you need to run again. You should run again. You should do the things that you need to do. Now, when Taft came in, Taft enforced more antitrust, anti-monopoly legislation than Roosevelt ever did. I mean, he went after something like 3 times more companies than Roosevelt did, which did not make him popular with the corporations. So Roosevelt decided to come and be president again. But Taft was the incumbent at that time. So he started the Bull Moose Party, very much like Ross Perot did as an example. And you had the very first presidential primaries. And at that time, I think it was the New York Times that said that that this was not a good idea, that Americans, if they knew what went on and went down, that it was a disgrace. Because it used to be that you went to the convention system, and everybody went to the convention, and you had delegates that went to the convention, and they nominated each party from delegates from the states nominated the presidential candidate at the convention. Now, more people complained that this was all smoke-filled rooms and backdoor deals and all of this, and that the convention was being manipulated. And I don't see how it's any different, other than the fact that now candidates have to spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on elections. And I think elections in California, they were saying something like some crazy amount of money, like $1 billion or something stupid. And then it was over. Then basically you had an election and you had a convention in August. The convention of each party picked who their guy was going to be. Then it went August, and then you campaigned September, October, and then by November it was over, and you had a president as either a superior or inferior system. But it's whatever. I'm not even sure what our original argument was. I was just saying that I'm a big time protectionist, number one, which the laissez-faire libertarian capitalists say is a bad idea. Number two, it's like you have to be able to enforce certain societal laws. I mean, if the libertarians want to have drugs and they want to just be stoned all day, that's great, but you have to have some sort of controls to be able to keep those away from children or anybody under 18 or 21 or whatever. So, and this all started with Jon Stewart. And talking about his 17-year run on The Daily Show, and it's not like he's dying, but he is quitting next week. And the 3 people that they had they did a best of The Daily Show roundup, and they've got the black girl with the ring in her nose, they've got an Indian guy, and then they've got the doofy white guy, and that's the new face of The Daily Show, I guess. And now the new guy coming in is a black South African which once again, now we have late night was Craig Ferguson, who was Scottish, but at least became an American citizen. Now we have late night with, or the Late Late Show with Richard Condon, who was the fat guy from the Doctor Who episode The Lodger. So he's another British guy as well. You've got Ashley Banfield, who's Canadian. You've got I think Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel. They're Americans at least. So you've got all these Brits and Canadians taking over television, and all these Swedish actors and whatever else. But I mean, I like Stewart in his day. I love the convention coverage that they were doing. I liked it when Stephen Colbert was on. I liked it when Ed Helms was on. I mean, you can't even swing a dead cat without hitting somebody in Hollywood that went through as a fake correspondent on the Daily Show. That's now like a major movie star, mostly in comedies. And who's the big one that made the transition was
Stephen Carell.
Stephen Carell, yes, of course.
Like the first ones, he did 40-Year-Old Virgin, and his career just took off.
Right, yeah, because he's a great actor. He's a really talented guy. So you had Stephen Carell, Stephen Colbert, who's now doing the Late Show. You've got you've got the Daily Show spawning so much crazy stuff.
You know what I'm really excited to see? They got this.
Sadly, because I don't know. I don't have much faith in America anymore. This is why we can't have nice things. You want to know why we can't have nice things? America. Strange universe. You want to know why we can't have nice things? A cute, cuddly robot with a smiley face, love hearts on his head, had a successful run all across the world. He went all across Canada, went across Germany, Munich, southern Germany, France. And he came to the United States, only to arrive in the United States and be brutally kidnapped, tortured, and murdered, to die 2 weeks later. A friendly little happy robot. The social experiment hitchhiking robot called Hitchbot traveled across Canada, Germany, the Netherlands, only to be killed when it arrived in, guess where? Philadelphia. Actually came from Boston, traveled through Boston, came through New York, and it was found headless, missing all of his electronic parts. And the robot's last car ride was seen in a YouTube video. And the same people who filmed the YouTube video later released a film of Hitchbot being destroyed. The film was later deemed to be fake, but there's a lesson somewhere in all of this. And so here's what you need to know. Hitchbot was a Canadian research project created in the Port Credit, Ontario by Dr. David Smith of McMaster University, where he was where the head cheese is the Hamburglar, apparently. McMaster University and Dr. Frauke Zeller of Ryerson University. And according to Hitchbot's website, he was designed to travel the world, posting photos to Instagram along the way. The hashtag of #HitchbotInUSA was created to document his travels across the United States. Hitchbot was designed to be picked up by residents, driven around to local or historic sites, get his photos taken in various places, and then be dropped off for the next resident to pick him up and take him along on his journey. Now, he posted a bucket list of where he wanted to go online to help people know where to take him. Now, he had bright yellow gloves and bright yellow boots and blue arms and blue legs. And he was kind of made out of a big white bucket with a happy little face on the top with a little disc for a head. So it traveled safely in Germany and Canada. The robot traveled through, once again, the Netherlands, Germany, Canada. He traveled throughout Canada all through 2014, covering 10,000 kilometers that ranged from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Victoria, British Columbia, according to his website. He began his travels in Germany on February 13th of 2015, starting out in Munich. And in 10 days, according to Hitchbot's website, he traveled through cities including Berlin, Cologne, Hamburg. He visited castles. He visited the Cologne Cathedral and other historic sites where people would pick him up and take him around. He was returned to Munich on February 22nd, and Hitchbot traveled to the Netherlands from June 7th to June 24th, 2025, and even rode on an Air Canada flight to Amsterdam, according to the robot's website. Somebody actually bought him a ticket. Now, then Hitchbot arrived in the United States. and he arrived actually in Boston, but he didn't get very far. The plan was to travel from Massachusetts to California, but he only made it to Philadelphia. Or Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia has entire counties in it. In the actual county of Philadelphia itself. Has entire areas where not a single vote was cast for Mitt Romney in 2012, to give you an idea. His travels included a boat ride in Gloucester, a ride on Boston Duck Tours, a trip to Boston's Public Garden and Common, and a visit to Fenway Park, and even an appearance on the Kiss Cam. His next stop was New York City. And Hitchbot is with at Soka Me Lousy and is headed to NYC, looking forward to the journey. Said some people who had actually picked him up and were taking him around. There, Hitchbot made it to Times Square, Radio City, had interviews with several media personalities, and it was time to move on to what no one knew would be his last stop. Jesse Wellens at Jesse Welle said, I just picked up a hitchhiking robot. The night has gotten really weird at Hitchbot. And its last car ride was filmed in Philadelphia. And if you skip ahead on the video to about 10:50 to the video by BFVSGF on YouTube, you'll see the last two people and find the robot intact. Jesse Wellens and Ed Bassmaster. And they filmed where they found the robot, their travels with Hitchbot, and even the point where they dropped him off. They explained in the video that if the robot saw a car driving by, it moved its thumb to look like it was hitchhiking. Quote, somehow it came to me and I'm part of this journey for this crazy robot, so it's kind of neat. Let's go, robot. And in the video, they quickly realized that the robot was programmed to respond to certain questions. They asked Hitchbot if he needs a seatbelt, and Hitchbot says yes. They later said, please sit in the back, and Hitchbot responded, why, so you can insult me again? So Hitchbot was a little snotty. But throughout their car drive, Hitchbot kept talking and talking. The driver finally said he had to pull over because he couldn't keep driving while Hitchbot talked and talked. They eventually dropped the robot off at Elfrith's Alley around 3 a.m. for someone else to pick him up, like the instructions indicated. And they considered... Sorry?
It wanted to get dropped off in an alley?
No, because it was blabbering away. It wouldn't shut up. So they actually... That's what they said. They dropped off the robot for someone else to pick up because it wouldn't shut up and it was annoying them. So they considered hiring a taxi to take Hitchbot to D.C., but decided against it out of fear that the taxi would just take the money and drop the robot in the river or something. They even tweeted a request for Hitchbot to be picked up, and many people responded wishing that they could, but it was just too late at night. And the next morning, Hitchbot was found just dead, torn apart and dead. Hitchbot was found in an alley. His arms and legs had been torn off. All of his electronics from the inside had been removed, and he was completely vandalized. He was kidnapped, tortured, maimed, and dumped in a pile of leaves in an alley by a brick wall. So his head was missing. He was stripped of his electronic parts, and when news broke about what happened to Hitchbot, Jesse Well, the last person to drop him off, responded, and he said, of course, Philadelphia kills the robot.
Isn't that what happened to Johnny Five in Short Circuit 2?
Pretty much, yeah.
Ended up in a back alley, and then all these street thugs beat the crap out of him.
I believe so. But he vowed to find security footage and figure out who killed Hitchbot. Earlier, Hitchbot posted the following sad message where Hitchbot said, oh, my dear, my body was damaged. I live on with all my friends. Sometimes bad things happen to good robots. That's sad. That's really sad. Later, Wellens posted a video with the hashtag PVP News, which he claimed showed someone vandalizing and destroying Hitchbot. Gizmodo reported the video shown was highly suspicious, but Gizmodo reported that the video was faked since there were no surveillance cameras from that direction, and the man in the footage was likely Wellens' friend Bassmaster. Bassmaster later staged an online performance with his online alter ego, Always Testy. Claims the police were after him. There aren't many solid leads in figuring out who destroyed Hitchbot. A Twitter user Johnny Burton 88 had posted a photo of headless Hitchbot buckled into his car with the tweet, quote, "So my buddy just picked up Hitchbot in the USA in Philly, and his electronics are gone along with his head," but later deleted the tweet according to Gizmodo. Although Hitchbot takes photos every 20 minutes, it did not take any photos of the attack. And by the way, the robot's U.S. bucket list is fairly poignant because the bucket list of what it wanted to see when Hitchbot was actually in the United States was see the lights in Times Square. He did. Pose with Lincoln statue. I don't think he got that far. See the geysers in Yellowstone. Nope. Tan at Myrtle Beach. Nope. See the house from Pixar's Up in Utah. Nope. What? The house from Pixar's Up is in Utah? I got to go see that. Experience the magic of Walt Disney World, Florida. Nope. See jaw-dropping views of the Grand Canyon, Arizona. Nope. Explore the Cloud Gate in Millennium Park, Illinois. Nope. Vegas, Nevada. Nope. Stand under the Gateway Arch, Missouri. Nope. Take a selfie with the Hollywood sign in California. Nope. Hear jazz music in New Orleans. Nope. Climb the General Sherman tree in California. Nope. Be the fifth portrait on Mount Rushmore. Nope. Do the wave at a sports game. Nope. So there you go. That sounds like what most of us would like to do, but if we start hitchhiking across America, we too would probably be killed in Philadelphia. So that was his final list. This is Hitchbot. Let us cross items off together. Show my family by using Hitchbot in USA when posting photos. Hitchbot didn't get very far on his bucket list, and many people were disappointed about his untimely demise. The official Hitchbot Twitter account had a nice little farewell message and a promise to give an official statement about Hitchbot's fate fairly soon, where Hitchbot said, "My trip must come to an end for now, but my love for humans will never fade. Thanks to all my friends." So, the last journey of Hitchbot, the photos you need to see. These are the photos of Hitchbot's last journey. And the piece was written by Stephanie Doob DeWilson, and she's a news writer for Heavy. She's also a featured cat blogger for Cat Time and runs a post-apocalyptic theme blog, and is a guest writer for a number of publications in her spare time. Stephanie writes screenplays and novels about sci-fi mysteries. You can follow her on Twitter at StephanieDube.com. So there you go, Mr. Roboto. I said he's not going to get far in the United States before somebody kills him. So there you go. Just somebody who's friendly and innocuous. And it just goes to show in America, I think, one, we've lost our sense of humor. Two, we just don't have fun anymore. And my proof of that being is that look around you sometime at the colors of all the cars. Tell me the next time you see an orange car or something like green or something bright pink or something. Just look at the cars around you. You'll notice they're all gray, they're brown, they're white. They're designed to just blend in so that you don't get nailed by the cops usually. So one other thing, I think I sent you this, Frozen fans. I sent you this, I don't know if you can play this video for me or not, but
Sean, for the record, my first car was a red Grand Am. And I never got pulled over in like the 5 years that I freaking owned it. Within the first month of me getting my silver Forester,
right,
is when I get my first actual pullover.
Oh, well, that's weird. Okay, well,
I heard that psychologically red is actually the least likely to get pulled over because red means stop. And a cop actually thinks stop when they see a red car, as in they stop behaviorally. That's what I've heard.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Everybody knows you get pulled over in a red car.
I was in a fast-looking car and was never pulled over for anything.
Okay.
As a young man, I was ripe to be, ticketed, and it never happened until I got, the mom and pop mobile.
All right. But the statistics usually say that gray cars are the least pulled over because they sort of blend in with the concrete. And cops are always looking for anybody that sticks out, anybody puts their head up, anybody that's different. That's who cops go after. Okay, take a look at this video if you could, please. I just sent it to you.
What, from News Sky?
Yes. So, see what you can do about playing the video because I want to hear what's going on with it.
Sure.
But organizers of the 2022 Winter Olympics, because the Winter Olympics are going to happen in Beijing, have been accused of copying Frozen's hit track "Let It Go" for one of their official songs. They released the song titled "The Snow and Ice Dance."
Hold on a second, sorry.
It's okay. Is causing controversy in China and around the world. The twinkling opening bars of the song, will sound very familiar to the millions of people who have watched the Disney movie. And if you don't know how Let It Go goes, believe me, I'm not going to sing it for you. Let it go, let it go.
You want me to get that audition version of it?
No.
The
tempo and mood of the Chinese song can definitely be compared to that of Idina Menzel, or I don't know what her John Travolta name is, Oscar-winning song. Let It Go has been one of the biggest earworms of the past year or so after the film became Disney's most successful ever. And let me comment, parents, and those people who have been abused in your mind by this particular song, this is not a good song. This is a song it's an evil song. If you really listen to the lyrics of the word, the whole Let It Go thing is, that perfect girl is gone. It's an evil song. It's a song about her. I have every right to be evil and be awful and be nasty and be bitchy. And apparently not only can she use her powers to create massive ice castles, and somebody in some magazine, I think it was Vogue or something, they actually had her ice palace appraised at $7.4 million. And Taylor Swift had a house that was worth more. It was worth like 10.2 or something. So Taylor Swift actually beat her because they appraised the ice palace of all things.
It's the Miley Cyrus song. Now that we've got the whore, you're just going to have to let go of Hannah Montana moniker.
It is. It is. It's a nasty, evil song. It is. I'm not sure what the message is. I should take a look at the lyrics again, but it's basically just saying, okay, well, you can be nasty, you can be evil. The perfect girl is gone, et cetera, et cetera. It's a dirty song. So while it's not known if the similarity was a deliberate decision, it has certainly annoyed a lot of people because, once again, this is just the Chinese copying stuff from America. One user wrote on the video's YouTube page, let it fake. The copyright never bothered me anyway. Another person wrote, nice ripoff. Do you Chinese have any originality at all? No. They're the hive mind mentality. We invent everything. You want to know the Chinese miracle? It's our money. Every time you see all the buildings and all the stuff and all the amazing stuff in China, guess what? That's money that could have been spent here because we're bankrupt. We're not only bankrupt, but we're being foreclosed on, and they're shipping everything over to China. So you want to know where they get these trillions of dollars? Guess what? Your pocket. So the Snow and Ice Dance is one of the 10 official songs for the games, which were awarded to Beijing on Friday. And there have been some concerns about the decision concerning the city. Considering the city is not known for its heavy snowfall, it doesn't even snow in Beijing. But perhaps Princess Elsa will be able to help out with that. All right, here it is. Here's the song from the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. Go. I'm not sure how much more I can stand, but kids, what's the verdict? Okay, right there. Okay, the strings in the background are definitely from Frozen. All right, it's a snow song. It sounds like snow. Okay, oh my God, Chinese, not a romance language, is all I can say. It's just so weird because it's not based on Latin, and and I don't know why, but I don't know why Chinese people always need to speak the Chinese language or Mandarin at the top of their lungs. It's like, hello, Mr. Sun, I love you so much. I love you. You're my best friend. I'm like, well, stop yelling at me. No, I must yell. That is how my language is pronounced. On top of my lungs. And I don't know why they go at the end of every word. Or is that Korean? I'm not sure. So there we go. So there's the there's the new 2022 Beijing Olympic song. Of course, by 2022, China will have conquered the world. So there we are. Okay, now we're not going to get through this before the top of the hour, so we're going to go for a while. Benjamin Fulford and his blog. Everybody sign up. We read Benjamin Fulford's blog on the program, but please support people. Ben Fulford, he's got a lot of very interesting ideas. He works very hard. I think it's $5 to subscribe to his website. So you need to support people. You need to, I don't know why people think because they have a computer and an internet connection that everything on the internet has to be free. And I understand. I understand that Ben has cracked down on people accessing free websites like Hypnosis and whatever else. They were copying his blog and putting it out there for free to people. Now we read it here to promote Ben Fulford and his material, and to once again please encourage you to go out and subscribe to not only my website, Strange Universe Radio, and we're in the process of revamping the Strange Universe Radio website. So when we get done by the end of this month, it will kick some serious booty. It will change minds, break hearts, and shake booties. That's the point. Khazarian terror plots thwarted. Rumors of August 8th arrests run rampant. An Iranian nuclear scientist called a White Dragon Society representative, as well as many government agencies, on the day of July 31st, Blue Moon, to warn an imminent Khazarian plot to attack multiple Iranian nuclear sites with nuclear-armed hijacked civilian airplanes. That sentence doesn't even make any sense. With nuclear-armed hijacked civilian airplanes, because we're just going to hijack, a Southwest Airlines flight, and it'll just so happen to have nuclear bombs on it. The scientist said he'd been warned from a flight from Dubai to Tehran on a Boeing 777-300ER plane that he was due to fly in on August 1st was one of the planes that was going to be used in the attack. The warnings were taken seriously, and heavy pressure was brought to bear on the Israeli military and intelligence establishment to prevent mad dog war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu and his fellow Kabbalists from carrying out such an attack. The so-called discovery of a Boeing 777 wing part in the Pacific Ocean last week was meant to be a diversion for this attack, according to Iranians and other sources. The sudden appearance of possible evidence of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 comes as fewer and fewer dupes around the world believe the official story that Flight 370, which vanished in the Pacific Ocean, and Flight 17, which was shot down over the Ukraine, were separate airplanes. And the perpetrators of this and other massive crimes continue to try to provoke a world war in order to prevent the backlash and mass arrests that will come once all their lies in front of mine. And why Anthony Michael Hall isn't, and he's really funny, and why he's not playing himself as Rusty, I guess, in National Lampoon's Vacation is really kind of a nightmare. Although this is kind of a weird thing. I'm not even sure I should be proud of this. It's one of those kind of like basking in reflected glory sort of things. But I went to a meeting with Michael at National Lampoon Films. And it turns out that the president of National Lampoon Films, and to tell you the truth, I can't even remember his name now, but he walks in and he says, "You're Sean David Morton." And I said, "Yeah, hi. Are you the Sean David Morton?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the Sean David Morton." I guess that's the weird part of being famous through radio. And he says, "I know your dad, J. Frank Salomon." I was like, "What?" And apparently when my stepdad and my mother got divorced, inevitably, because my mother couldn't get along with anybody ever, went through her 5 husbands. I stopped counting at like 4. And he said, so I don't know if this is related or not. So my stepdad, Frank, divorced my mother and remarried a woman named Bernice, who looked exactly like the name sounds. Bernie, hello, I'm Bernice. And so he said, Bernice is my sister. So I don't know how that makes us related. I guess that makes her my stepmother. I guess he makes it my stepbrother, doesn't it? No, well, I don't know. If he marries your stepfather and then you have a stepmother through your stepfather, how does that make you related?
Isn't it? No, isn't it an in-law thing?
Well, kind of, but if your stepfather's married your mother and then your mother divorces your stepfather and then your stepfather remarries again, so your stepfather marries the next wife and she becomes your stepmother, so you become the stepson, I guess. So he was actually my stepbrother, which was very strange. So, but anyway, we were there trying to pitch Michael as far as getting involved in National Lampoon comedies. And he was pitching a project that was kind of like a takeoff Mad World, I think. It was just some big comedy that was kind of a chase movie about getting a treasure and whatever else. And he was kind of pitching this whole thing. And unfortunately, Mike's a great guy, and he's a very talented guy, but he needs to let other people do work. My whole opinion of the whole thing was he basically talked himself out of a job by saying, well, I'm going to star in it, and I'm going to write it, and I'm going to direct it, and I'm going to do all these things. And people are like, hey, why, let us work too. So, whatever. Anyway, I'm not sure what's going on with Mike now and why he should be the guy. He should be the guy in National Lampoon's Vacation, not Ed Helms. Although he does not look like he grew up a geeky kid, because Mike's, blonde hair, blue eyes, like 6'2". He's a full grown man. He's not some, geeky little dweeb. So, and also the one other thing too, and I want to thank Kevin Shaw for this suggestion. What the hell's going on with this? Hold on. I think I know what's happening. Hold on. I got to turn something off here. What? It's just one more reason to give Osimo a gun.
This was literally the plot to the backstory of the Matrix, which if you saw the Animatrix, you'd know how it all went down.
Kind of the backstory of Astro Boy too, although Astro Boy was made as a robot and then wound up in a circus and then wound up as an orphan. I think before he got found by Dr. Elephant or something like that. But remember?
Are you saying that that the robot was exploited against his will?
Well, yeah, in Astro Boy he kind of was, but I'm thinking they probably just tore him apart and just ripped him off. It's Philadelphia, man. I'm telling you, it's become the worst place on earth. And one more reason to, one, stay away from Philadelphia, and two, I don't know.
They should have made him Chappie.
Yeah, exactly. He was Chappie. Chappie was badass. Chappie could have.
Die Antword. He would have been street.
Exactly. Yeah, Chappie would have kicked his ass. All right, so back to it's just stupid. The latest alleged here is here we go. Back to the 370. The perpetrators of this and other massive crimes continue to try to provoke world war in order to prevent the backlash and mass arrests that will come once all their lies and crimes inevitably become fully exposed. Which Benjamin and I completely disagree on. Their crimes will never be fully exposed. They're never going to be arrested. They die fat and happy, humping a prostitute on the desk of their office, which is how Nelson Rockefeller died of a heart attack, going happy, happy, happy. Which is kind of weird because when you die on top of a prostitute and kind of seize up, that's just got to be weird for the prostitute, where it's like you got to wait for the paramedics to come pry this weird old man off you. Ah, yes, that is how Nelson Rockefeller died. That is a true fact, ladies and gentlemen. The latest alleged attack Iran plot came at a time that rumors of mass arrests of senior Kabbalists were once again flying over the internet. Sources at the CIA, the Asian Development Bank, and the Federal Reserve Board all warned this writer of mass arrests instigated by the Chinese due to take place on August 8th. The rumors were traced to the following article and related links. Now, if you want to check the link, it's actually Intel in our chronicles. It's INTEL. Oh, Intel Dinar Chronicles.blogspot.jp / So it's http:// Intel Dinar Chronicles.blogspot.jp / Now, while the Chinese, let me just take a quick look. I'm going to take a quick look at this link. I have not seen this before. Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh, it's really short. So, Dinar update with Stryker. Upcoming raise in value. Now, this is one of those websites that tells you that the dinar at some point is going to revalue. And if you spent $300 on dinar, that you're going to be rich. So there it is. I mean, and just blogs go by. Like yesterday, Real Love by the Beatles has been uploaded to the downloads page. Please visit the page now, blah, blah. Dinar update with Stryker, upcoming raise in value. Large reserves will raise IQD exchange rate. The $10 billion that was spent out of the reserves from 2014, 2015 was not a waste and a good thing for the Iraqi dinar and its upcoming raise in value, according to Economist. Tuesday morning thoughts, something morning. Don't know if I should laugh in frustration or just be content. All right, this has nothing to do with anything. Oh, it's just got It's got the full report on it. That's kind of weird. All right, there's nothing there. Don't bother. Well, the Chinese like the number 8 and definitely started the 2008 Beijing Olympics at 8:08 a.m. on August 8th, which was 8/8 at 8:08 a.m. in 2008. We have not been able to independently confirm any plans for arrests on that date. In any case, and really we're having to rely on the Red Chinese to arrest bad people. That's the weird mixed up conspiracy world that we live in. I'm still getting used to the fact that Vladimir Putin is the good guy in a lot of this stuff. But in any case, the arrests need to be made mostly inside the U.S., and Israel would thus have to be done by the United States military and police apparatus. Good luck with that. Last I heard, the number 8 isn't their cup of feng shui. Nonetheless, the speed with which this rumor, or intel, spread shows there is real frustration within the military and intelligence apparatus. Many of us wonder why they were frustration with the military intelligence apparatus. Many of us wonder why known murderers and criminals, I completely agree here, why are known murderers and criminals like Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, why do they appear day after day in the corporate media as if they were legitimate presidential candidates? Also, why is Benjamin Netanyahu free? As one prominent British journalist blurted out at a press conference about the March 11th tsunami and nuclear terror attack, why hasn't anyone been arrested? Well, as a matter of fact, a Japanese government committee ruled last week that 3 executives of the Tokyo Electric Power Corporation are now facing criminal charges related to the 3/11 mass murder attack. The White Dragon Society will do all in its power to ensure the trial of the Tokyo Electric Power executives leads to criminal charges being filed against more senior criminals like Benjamin Netanyahu, Tony Blair, Jay Rockefeller, and George Bush Jr. There was a big intelligence dump made against the British royal family and other European royal families last week by the Alcuin and Flutterby site, believed to be linked to British intelligence. The information can be seen at the following link under the headline, European Bloodlines Face End-Time Vortex of Exposure. The article includes a quote from Illuminati Grand Master Alexander Romanov, where he stated, quote, I have a message, and this is to Queen Elizabeth directly. Aunt Elizabeth, ISIS is very upset. She wants her crown back. Whatever weird occult crap that means. But the intelligence dump also contains what is purported to be a copy of an original memo ordering the murder of Princess Diana. Ooh. It further includes copies of documents showing European bloodlines are capable of creating trillions of dollars out of thin air if they wish. Okay, what else is new? There is also more evidence of European bloodlines and Nazi links. Nazis! As well as detailed genealogical information about the British royals. Well, duh, they're all Habsburgs. For goodness sakes, there's no royal blood there. Princess Diana had more royal blood in her little finger than that entire family had. This dump came around the time bin Laden's sister's airplane crashed in the UK, killing her and other members of the bin Laden family. That was actually in the news in the LA Times. U.S. Naval Intelligence claims she was coming to England to testify in the Chilcot inquiry about the Iraq War and 9/11. One of the things that she was going to testify about is that U.S. Naval Intelligence sites claim was that a bank account linked to Queen Elizabeth was actually used to finance the 9/11 attacks. Now, a member of the Rothschild family once described this what does it mean site as containing anywhere between 90% and 10% disinformation. He was nonetheless a faithful reader. That's interesting. That's Sorcia Falls website, whatdoesitmean.com. It's good fun. And as I said, it's between 90 and, is it 90% information or 10%? Depending on what day you pick up Sorcia Falls. The amazing fun part about it is that she does find an amazing way to link a bunch of stuff together. Now, I tell you, I read it with tongue firmly in cheek, but I mean, the last one is that Jade Helm was actually to hunt and kill, I guess, tall white Nordics that had invaded the United States in these huge black cubes that were appearing over Texas. Okay, I'll buy it. Tom Hennigan, a site claiming to be linked to a joint U.S.-French intelligence task force, for its part, has issued a report linking the Queen's cousin, the recently resigned King Juan Carlos of Spain. Oh, yeah, they're cousins. They're all related. They're all descended supposedly from Aquitaine and the Merovingian dynasty and all that stuff. But King Juan Carlos of Spain with the Bush family, 9/11 in the year 2000 stolen election. The site also claims bin Laden's sister was killed by Military Intelligence 5, or MI5, to prevent bin Laden's sister from testifying. This is from TomHenniganBriefings.com, for whatever Tom Hennigan is worth. It may be possible that the attacks on the British royals come as the investigations into, here we call it pedophilia, which I suppose is molesting someone walking across the street, and there they call it pedophilia. Networks in the UK power structure begin to hit serious nerves. Now, UK police have just announced they will be investigating to see whether there was a cover-up of child sex allegations against former Prime Minister Edward Heath. Sir Edward Heath, child sex abuse claim, Wiltshire police faces investigation. Heath signed over UK independence to the European Union after he was blackmailed over having sex with a boy. Isn't their entire culture based on having sex with boys? Isn't it, as Archie Bunker used to say, isn't England, it's a whole civilization based on poofery, according to British MI5 intelligence. I mean, they must have that on everybody over there. Exposing this would, of course, be fatal to the EU project, and perhaps this is one of the motives for the sudden attacks on British royals. Then again, perhaps they were all part of it too. Only time will tell. In any case, this multifaceted exposure of the British royal family comes at a time that ISIS is under unprecedented attack. Remember that the so-called Muslim ISIS group appeared only after Alexander Romanov said ISIS is angry, unquote. Now, a Pentagon source told the White Dragon Society the U.S. military has put extreme pressure on Turkey. Now, while Russia puts pressure on Israel for both to stop supporting ISIS. And the same source said Iran and Egypt had been given U.S. nukes to, quote, finish ISIS off. The same source said Saudi Arabia was going to be dismembered into 3 states, a Shia state around the oil-producing regions, a holy Muslim state around Mecca, and as far as funky cold Medina goes, a rump Saudi state around Radai. Russian reapproachment of the U.S. military has also led to a purge of anti-Russian Khazarian influence in Poland, according to Pentagon sources. Now, this is why Zionist billionaire Jan Kulchek, anti-Russian ex-foreign minister and ex-Radoslav Sikorsky, and his neocon wife, Anne Applebaum, have been booted out of power, the source said. All these power struggles and information, all these leaks come from the world economic and financial system, and they continue to grind down towards dysfunction. Last week, the U.S. Protectorate of Puerto Rico officially went bankrupt. And although efforts are being made to make this seem isolated from the U.S. itself, Puerto Rico is just the canary in the coal mine, because its owner, the United States of America Corporation, is also bankrupt. Now, let me comment here. If Puerto Rico goes bankrupt, first off, people hold billions of dollars in bonds, municipal bonds, basically, from Puerto Rico. Secondly, when FDR was fighting the U.S. Supreme Court, this was back when he wanted to put 15 members on the Supreme Court, so that he could stack the court with his people, so that he could do what he wanted to do and basically begin the burning of the Constitution. The Supreme Court, or the 9 angry men as they were called at that time, stopped Roosevelt over and over and over again from this massive fascist expansion of the presidency, the executive, and federal power in general. And the first one they went after was the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And they basically flat out said the BATF is illegal. That number one, you can't control or infringe on the right of the people to keep and bear arms, because that's the Second Amendment. And number two, even though you passed an amendment to ban alcohol, which had nothing to do with people drinking alcohol, had nothing to do with it. It was a trick by the Rockefellers because they wanted to ban an alternative fuel so they could take over with their oil. And that's why they kept chasing the moonshiners, and you have the moonshine trucks going back and forth, because it wasn't just booze, it was fuel for farmers to keep their farms going without having to pay outrageously high gas prices, even back then in the 20s. So they said, you can't regulate alcohol because we just passed a law that says it's legal, and you cannot regulate firearms because the Second Amendment says you have the right to keep them. So what the hell is this organization? You can't have this organization. So what FDR did is he offshored it to Puerto Rico. By the way, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Take a look at USC Section 30. And if you look at Section 30, that's just off the top of my head. But you look at Section 30, you'll see there's about 150 private independent trusts that are all supported by the federal government. And you will notice that, there's things like the preservation of the Abraham Lincoln birthplace and trust for monuments and, all this other stuff. But trust number 2 just so happens to be the Internal Revenue Service out of the Philippines. So they ran a lot of this stuff out of the Philippines, all these offshore corporations out of the Philippines. Now, if you look at Trust 62, it shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Internal Revenue Service is, in fact, a private corporation or a private trust, Trust 62, that actually runs out of Puerto Rico, domiciled in Puerto Rico, that does business through a subsidiary S Corp through Delaware. It's right there. You can look it up. Like I said, USC Section 30 on the web. So, anyway, keep watching out for 21 Pilots.
You're just a hipster lover.
I am a hipster lover, I guess. And when it's good, hipster. And actually, music just kind of started getting good again. Just about the last 3 years. Actually, I kind of like the folktronic stuff, which is kind of fun. As I said, as a DJ, the 80s were so great. There was so much great music in the 80s. And right at 1990, 91, just everything shifted, everything changed. And then you had the whole, and this is why it's interesting. I'm going to see I actually do want to go see the movie NWA when it comes out straight out of Compton, because it all did kind of happen here, which was really weird because the rap and hip hop stuff that was coming out of New York was all really fun. It was dance music, and it was, it was be nice to girls and let's all get laid and have fun. And, East Coast music was like Humpty Dance. West Coast gangsta became F the cops, that sort of thing. So that was the whole East Coast, West Coast deal. Yes.
Life for the black community was just that much more, worse. Look,
I can tell you, look, in the 80s, Watts and Compton and that area were, I would say, considered in the early 80s, middle class. Just maybe lower end middle class, but not lower class. But I would say at the bottom end of middle class. And there was all kinds of heavy industry there. There was plenty of jobs, all kinds of work. And I can tell you for a fact that the American CIA went in. This was the whole Riaz Diatre of Michael Rupert, and is in the Wilderness website, is that Michael Rupert went in, and when the head of the CIA had a big press conference in downtown Los Angeles, he stormed the press conference and dumped all this proof that all these crack houses and all the stuff that was destroying these black neighborhoods, destroying the property values, destroying the kids, destroying whatever, which then had the cops come in and crack down on everything because of the crack houses, were all started by the CIA. Every single one of them. They would find the most affluent black neighborhood they could find, buy the crack house, start the crack house, and within a year, the crime levels would go so high that black folks had to turn and walk away from their houses because the value of the houses, which they would buy for $150,000 to $200,000 at that time, 1980s prices, would be worth less than $30,000, $25,000. They would just have to walk away. So it's an interesting, but I felt the music change. In 1990, 91, because I was working at a proletariat bar, if you will. I was working at Houlihan's in Torrance. And we had a huge shopping mall, largest in the world. Business was going great. Everybody would come in, have a great time, put on hats, dance around in the bar, go all crazy. We had a whole show. And then on the weekends, I was doing all the crazy stuff. I was doing Club F and Vertigo. Friday, Saturday nights, I was doing Vertigo. Sunday nights, I was doing a total underground house music, Black Forest, German stuff. And creating what they're called the LA Sound, which was then. But so it's going to be interesting to see. All right, with the rest of Fulford here. Once again, it's the Pentagon source told the White Dragons the U.S. military had put extreme pressure on Turkey while Russia put pressure on Israel for both of them to stop supporting ISIS. Because once again, the Israelis need a boogeyman. They need a bad guy for the United States to come in and spend more money in the region and actually care about what happens there. So the same source said Iran and Egypt have been given U.S. nukes to finish off ISIS. Now, the same source said that Saudi Arabia, I'm sorry, I read some of this stuff here. Puerto Rico. We're talking about Puerto Rico. The simultaneous plunging prices of oil, coal, copper, steel, and other commodities show that China's mighty economic engine is also grinding to a halt. Let me talk about China for a second. China is Japan in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s on steroids. You figure for every product that costs $1 that comes out of China, they spend 98 cents on manufacturing that product. So their profit margin is 2 cents. So if the United States sneezes, the whole world gets a cold. China has to continue to buy our bonds, buy our treasuries, and prop up the United States because we buy all their junk. Walmart would not exist. And again, Walmart being 49th, I think, on the chain of top 50 companies. Microsoft is 47th. Everyone else is a bank. They don't want to tell you that banks are 48 of the top 50 companies on earth because they don't produce anything. They're parasitic. All they do is create money out of nothing. And you have 60%, I think, of the population of China lives within 40 miles of the coast and in the 4 main provinces. And the entire rest of the country is deserted. They build ghost cities there just for fun. So China's impressive growth spurt was powered mainly by construction and exports from the United States. And with the United States and European markets now withering, with construction reaching saturation levels. I mean, once again, think of all those empty new cities. China is now having to do something to change gears. And might I also say that now that the United States, once again, because we played dirty, we are nobody's friend, man. The United States, the only reason that the 20th century was an American century is because we blowed up everybody that competed with us. I mean, think about it. We're number one at what? Not education, not manufacturing. The only country we ever beat fair and square in a war was Germany. We basically lost the Revolutionary War because the British just said, we're going home. And then when we stopped paying them to leave us alone, they came in and burned our capital to the ground. I don't know, Civil War was a draw, I suppose. We killed everybody in the South. And the South is still, to this day, basically an occupied nation. It's, it's a third world country there.
Yeah, but you know who really lost the Civil War?
Who?
The Irish.
This would be true. And actually the only reason that the South didn't win is because they didn't have enough Irish. If they'd had more Irish, because the Irish were coming to work in the factories in the North, they had more Irish in the South, but I don't know. What can you say? But then First World War, we kind of came in at the end. We came in at the very end when the war was almost over, and that war was a draw. So World War II, we basically beat up the Germans. We only beat the Chinese because we got a bunch of German scientists. I'm sorry, not the Chinese, the Japanese. We got a bunch of German scientists that had already developed atomic bombs because we couldn't figure out how to do that either. I don't care what they say about the Manhattan Project. We got the atomic bomb after we got a bunch of Germans to tell us how to make one. So then we blowed up the Japanese. There you go. And they then became a subsidiary S corp of the United States, as is Germany. Germany doesn't have its own government. Germany has a student government. They've got a student body president in Angela Merkel. They get to decide what the theme of the prom is going to be, and less study hall or whatever. That's about it. Because there's a military junta that in essence says everything that Germany can do. So we run the world. I don't care what people say. So we go into China. We introduce them to a stock market. They do this Alibaba deal over there, which would never have flown in the United States. It would be so illegal in the United States. There's not a single place in the U.S. that you can get away with that. So where do they do it? Singapore. Because you can do anything in Singapore. Singapore, no social freedom, economic freedom like crazy. You can't chew gum. They won't allow you to have gum in Singapore. because they're afraid that if you have gum, you'll chew it and you'll put it under your seat on the bus. And if they catch you with gum and you, for God forbid, spit it out somewhere, they take you in the public square and whip you. They give you a caning like that idiot kid that spray painted everything. So the Chinese say, and this is the other thing too about China. The minute China, because China has nothing links them together anymore. Mao Zedong came in. Mao Zedong murdered 60 million people. That son of a bitch. 60 million people. You can put him right up there with abortion, ladies and gentlemen. Mao Zedong and abortion. Chinese communism, I presume feminism, whatever that, I have no idea what that religion is. What is feminism? Outside of, I don't like being feminine. I don't want to wear a dress. I'm going to dress like a boy. And apparently vagina is 10,000 calories a lick. Which is why lesbians are all so fat. I don't get that. What? Don't tell me you don't get that, please. The Chinese say that they're going to shift to services, domestic demand. See, when I can make Steve laugh, that's the cool part. The Chinese claim they're going to shift to domestic services and demand and innovation, but China's probably going to have to take one step backwards before it can start moving forward again. Now, the stock market crash in China, which is engineered by the United States, we go in there and start a whole stock market. We crash their market. We steal all the money from the Chinese. The reason Tiananmen Square happened in 1989 was because China kicked Chase and the Rockefellers out, and all those people got their credit cards and their bank accounts taken away. Because they said, we don't want your interest here, no credit card, no 29.9% AR for me. I don't know what it is. Annual, what the hell is it? Not a... Oh, what is it? APR. I'm sorry, APR. No, 29% APR for what? I stand in front of a tank before I pay that. No. So, yeah. So that's what we did. We went in, we set up their stock market, then we crashed it, and we took all their dough. Very much like Goldman Sachs. Well, it was Goldman Sachs. So here's the problem. Again, they used to have religion in China. They had Buddhism that linked them all together. That's gone. Shintoism, basically a lot of religions that came from other places. Tibetan Buddhism, Shinto Buddhism, which came out of Japan. So there's no religious link. They had Taoism as an example. They had these amazing monasteries for Taoism and these Taoist masters with amazing powers. You've seen them all in the Kung Fu movies. You know, they can fly and dance around the top of trees, and that was real stuff there. That's all gone. That's part of the cultural revolution there. They took anybody that could speak the Mandarin well or had any form of education whatsoever and just killed them. So now economics is the only thing that pulls China together. The minute economics starts to tank, the Chinese will not invade other countries, but will turn on each other. And so you have these 4 giant provinces where now they're talking about the end of Chinese communism because everybody got involved in the stock market. The government basically came in and sucked up the losses. And if they don't keep doing that, people might revolt and overthrow Chinese communism. My prediction in the 90s was that that communism in China would end, that capitalism would be introduced, and they would become far more dangerous than they ever were. Because now they're looking at the United States going, oh, we want Coca-Cola too. We want that too. And the minute you have 2 billion people wanting to live like we live in America, because remember, we only make up, we're barely, population's barely scraping 350. We should have 425 million people in this country. We don't, once again, because of abortion. I ain't hating, I'm just stating. When you kill 60 million people and you take them completely out of the loop, you have to replace that population. How do you do it? You let a bunch of illegal aliens in the country. Then you give them Social Security cards because the people are the credit of the nation. So the stock market crashes in China is not the cause of all this, but rather a symptom. That's going back to Fulford again. Another way of putting it is that the easy part for China, which means copying the models of everyone else in the world that worked. Because remember, they're not creative. They're a hive mind. They're a hive mentality. But that's over. Them stealing from everybody else, with the exception of the Frozen song for the 2022 Olympics. And now they will have to forge ahead into unknown economic territory, which means now they're going to need American brains. Now they're going to need us crazy Americans that think outside the box and do all kinds of nutty things. That's why they want to finance everything here. The upshot of all this is that China will be less willing and able to keep financing the United States and Europe until it readjusts its own economy. Speaking of Europe, let us not forget, the Greek crisis is really not about Greece, but also about Portugal, Italy, Spain, France, and Germany, the pigs nations. The crisis continues to fester away, unsolved and unsolvable, using the current economic paradigm. But now we're learning, this is me talking, not Fulford, now we're learning that Goldman Sachs has been directly responsible in massive financial crime. Not just fraud, crime. They have collapsed the Greek economy. They have stolen. They have raped. They have pillaged. There is a reason why. You don't hear it in the United States, but they have big rallies over there saying, kill all the Jews, round them up, kill them, kick them out of the country, kill the Rothschilds. These are headlines screaming in Greece. Because of the banks, because of what's happening with the banks. And again, if I loan somebody $10 and I say, well, tomorrow it's 15, then it's 20, then it's 25, then it's 30, then it's 40, then it's 50, and then suddenly you owe me $100 and you've already paid me back the 10. Oh no, well, you're going to default on your loan. It's made up. I just made up the other $90. And this is what Greece is facing because of Goldman Sachs. So, and all these other countries. And look, kids, this is political science. It's not political, I guess so. It's not political theory. It's political science. And this is economic war. And when you look at the Bible, and unfortunately it does say this somewhere, I don't know how they snuck it in, but the Bible forbids usury. Forbid. The Catholics forbade usury. Islam forbids usury. But somewhere in there was the Talmud, but it does say somewhere in there that it says that you can, if you're Hebrew or Jewish or an Israelite or whatever, I hate the word to use Jewish because the Old Testament, up until the book of Lamentations, Jeremiah and Lamentations, the Old Testament is truly about the Israelites. It's truly about all 12, technically 13 tribes, because you've got the Levites as well. But then there's a big civil war, which they don't really talk about. Big civil war between Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because they want to put the temple, like Solomon and David, whatever. This caused a big rift. They wanted to put the temple on the place of Shaitan, which is Jerusalem, where it is now, the Serpent Hill. And the other 10 tribes revolted because they said, no, the real mountain of God is over here. It's over in Jordan, which is now what we're finding. And so the 10 tribes split and went off into the Caucasus Mountains and basically settled the whole big chunks of Russia and Europe and whatever else. And you can really actually see that a lot of the Greeks as well, the Greeks were now learning a huge part of the Greek tribes and their culture actually came from the Israelites. Why? Because when Moses was running away, not across the Red Sea, and not leaving Luxor, but when he was leaving Cairo or Heliopolis, they stopped along the coast of the Mediterranean. And he said, anybody wants to go can go. And people got in boats and they sailed across the Mediterranean and they wound up in Greece. And now we're finding all this stuff in Greece, the Ark of the Covenant and temples and all this stuff. And we're finding that now the massively great Greek civilization was mostly based on Hebrews that didn't agree with Moses, didn't want to wander around the desert for 40 years. So they jumped in boats and split. But that's a whole other story. So here Fulford says, as a writer, I've learned that when an article is not going well, sometimes it's necessary to start again with a blank page. In this case, it means ending the Babylonian debt slavery paradigm. Where it's absolutely true. And once again, my whole point about interest banking being is that somebody slipped in a clause in the Bible that said that you can loan money to an Azur. An Azur was a stranger. That's what it meant, stranger. And what stranger really meant was a racial alien. So you could loan money to anybody that was a racial alien. Anybody that was, now people later on said, and here's the weird thing about Judaism, are you a Jew because it's a racial thing, or your mother's a Jew and you go back to, I don't know, somewhere in the Bible, which once again is all a giant myth because, all the current white Jews today are all from Eastern Europe. And most of them the Khazarians all converted to Islam converted to Judaism in the 8th century, which is why they're part Mongolian, because Mongolians came in to Eastern Europe, stayed for about a year, raped everything they could get their hands on. I mean, they had a drill in the Mongolian army for how to pick up, grab a woman by the back of the head, and sort of scissor her and then slam her onto the ground so she was semi-conscious so you could rape her all at the same time. Except in Arizona. So, they raped everything. Therefore, matter of fact, even Crohn's disease today, which occurs to mostly Eastern European Ashkenazic Jews, is because there's there's a difference between the Mongolian and the Caucasoid digestive system, and it's a kink in the colons because the Mongolians have a shorter digestive system because of all the rice and meat they eat. So I'm just saying that once again, you could loan money to a racial alien, and that's why the Jews usually by the Bible were not allowed to own land, but they would walk into a town with a big case of gold and silver and diamonds and rubies and whatever else, open that case, build a big vault, put the army around it, and then they would say, let me take your money on deposit. Then they would actually either take the coins and they would actually chisel the edges of gold coins so that when you released an ounce of gold, it really weighed like 0.998. That's why they actually put ridges around the edges of the coins. They put ridges around the edge of the coins because they called people chiselers. If somebody was cheating you, he was a chiseler because he was actually shaving or chiseling the edge of your coin. But in 50 years, you can own a town. In 50 years, with the Babylonian banking system, you can own everything. And it's designed that way. So when the Federal Reserve System, when the central bank was finally put into the United States, thanks to Woodrow Wilson, once again, because Teddy Roosevelt wanted to run against Taft, and because Taft was a huge corporation slayer and a massive antitrust, anti-monopoly guy, so they grease in this communist progressive Woodrow Wilson, who swears not to get the United States in a war, takes us into World War I, because the Democrats always lie. They just whatever they say, you can bet you're going to get the opposite. Yeah, that's right, Sugar. Did you bring me a present? Yeah, okay, she says yes. So yeah, we had Pip the Wonder Dog yesterday, so today we have Sugar the Super Cat. My incarnation of a gentleman's club stripper. She does her little dance just to get treats, and then you try to pick her up and try to snuggle her, and she goes, no, don't touch me. Ah! And she runs away. So yeah, so the whole debt slavery thing, and once again, it's a Babylonian banking system. So what are the two matrices that are being wiped out? You have basically the Judaic matrix and the Babylonian matrix as well. Both of them are coming to an end. But the Babylonian debt slavery paradigm that has ruled the West for the past 100 years, since they established the Babylonian banking system again with the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913. Once again, most of these guys should be hung with the reincarnations of Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson holding the end of the rope. So what did they do in Europe? They did the same thing in Europe. They put a central bank in Brussels, in Belgium. Then they started minting euros, put everybody on the euro, gave everybody all kinds of them over 20 years, and it took them 20 years. 20 years it took the Federal Reserve to bankrupt the federal government of the United States. And the Federal Reserve is as Federal Express. There's nothing. It's a private company. And actually it's European banks. So we don't even have our own money. There's no such thing as U.S. dollars. It's all privately printed Federal Reserve notes, and these are all European banks that now control the economy in the United States. Matter of fact, the first head of the Federal Reserve Board, the most powerful economic person in the United States, when he first did it, he didn't even speak English. He was German. And then, of course, we went to war with the Germans a year later. That's exactly what they've done to Europe. They did the same thing where they put the euro out for 20 years, hyperinflate the euro, get all the debts down in the euro. Then they stop printing the euro. Euro goes up. People can't pay the debts in euro, and the banks now have Europe. And I never thought the Europeans would be this stupid. And the only Europeans that have been the British. And now the British, oh my God, the whole country is going to be taken over. Now they've got their biggest mistake was building an empire. And now the British are a minority in their own country. They used to be 98% Anglo-Saxon, and now they're probably 47. We just became minorities. Actually, Caucasians here in LA County became minorities. I want stuff now. I want to apply for all the minority stuff because I'm a minority now, so I should get free stuff. I should be discriminated against. I should be able to say, hey, you can't say that because I'm a minority and I'm oppressed now. So now that more than 100 years have passed since the Federal Reserve Board was privatized, 8 out of 10 Americans is now a debt slave. And standards of living in the U.S. have been falling since the 1960s, while in Japan they've been falling since the Khazarian economic model was imposed in the 90s. And Europe is in deep economic trouble. There's talk of a jubilee, a one-time write-off of debt and redistribution of assets starting this fall. It would be a good place to start. The Gnostic Illuminati, if they are serious about ending bloodline rule, need to push for the nationalization of central banks, the bloodline families if they wish to avoid another French or Russian-style bloody revolution. Because remember, the French didn't see it coming either. I'm surprised the kids in Zuccotti Park up in New York didn't build themselves a couple of replicas of guillotines and put them on display, just to show people where things are heading. But now they need all these families need to stand gracefully aside from financial control and perhaps be allowed to continue their role as, I don't know, ribbon cutters and fodder for gossip magazines. Because in the meantime, just as happened with the fall of the Soviet Union, we're now being exposed to rare inside information at a blistering rate, and we need to keep this information for reference before it vanishes. So there it is. So there's Benjamin Fulford with my comments, and thank you again, Benjamin. Please sign up for Benjamin's website, benjaminfulford.com, and which would be a good thing for everybody. By the way, the stand down code, which is fairly simple, goes like this. Everything that is happening here on Earth, you choose, you wanted this, you contracted for all of this. But nothing, and I mean nothing, can be further from the truth, because then this absolute ridiculous fabrication, which is being propagated through countless New Age writers and channels at this moment in time. Because no one has any karma left to pay except those running the Matrix. And not one more person has to die to pay for anything, period. Because the holographic matrix is being torn down as we speak. It's ending. And all who can do so will be able to move on.